Hi, and welcome to Affirm Soul, or you are just visiting my page on Facebook or one of my pages on YouTube. I wanted to thank you for stopping by or just taking a moment to, you know, hear what I have to say. Um, well, one of the things that I have been wanting to comment on, and not for clicks or views, but more so just because I felt obligated to share a post I did in 2018, which was my EFT tapping. And at the time when I did this post, I was doing it to offer information and to serve my community. But now, as I look at it, I realized I was doing that for the younger self, someone much younger than myself who experiences similar, um, you know, anxieties about life and the future, who struggle with their voice, who may not have a support system in place that will adequately prepare them for the disappointments that come with living life. And so, a little bit about me. My name is Akua Kariamu. I was born in New York. Um, and I can tell you more about my name. You might wonder, what does it mean? And you may know what it means, but how all of that came about is probably another video. We could talk about that, I think, on another time. But I'm an artist. I'm a musician. I've found myself being able to find my voice through music over the years, and also through entrepreneurial and creative pursuits. I started my first business when I was about 10 years old, selling stickers by mail order. So I knew I had a knack for finding um, kind of, what do you call it, like, I don't know, trendy, if that's the right word, or like good ideas, ideas that are like, wow, oh, that works. I found I had a knack for that. And I grew up in a family where we played a lot of music, and both sides of my family very musically inclined, my father and mother's side. So I feel as though I have a very unique perspective because in this digital divide, I see more xenophobic, meaning, um, you know, alienation and delineation of people by their where you're born. If you're not born in America, then you're not really a Black American. All these kind of things, all these differentiations, which I don't like, by the way. I don't care for it really, but I do feel there's something to be said. I just find that for me growing up, I had to always put all of me someplace else. I couldn't really know where I fit in. So it's like this part's here, that part's there. Sunday, this is who I am. Monday, I'm this person. I really had a struggle with identity, and then of course with that came the struggle with intelligence. Like, am I smart enough? Am I pretty enough? All these things. So I feel my voice is for that person who, like myself, struggle with similar. So today, I think what we will do, I want to talk a little bit more about that, but I do want to do some tapping because I feel like that's really important, and it's how I would like to serve. So I think today what we want to do is to let's tap on um, this again, this feeling of imposter identity, anxiety around who am I? Who am I? Okay, so we're going to do a setup statement. Even though I know who I am, I deeply love and honor where I am. Okay, even though I know who I am, I deeply love, honor, and accept who I am. So we're going to tap on the side of the hand, and then we're going to just do 3 rounds. Okay, and just trying to just clear all that inner, anxiety out that comes up. So you may want some water. I'm talking to myself as well because a lot of times I find I get anxious once I get on my video. And let's see. Okay. So we're going to start here. And on a scale of 0 to 10, just assess where do you think you are in your anxiety level when it comes to, if someone wants to ask you, who are you? How would you feel about that? What would that do to you immediately? And just kind of think of a number. If someone asked you, how would you be able to respond? You know, so scale 0 to 10. Okay, and so we're gonna start, and then we'll go through the 9 meridians. Even though I know who I am, I deeply love, honor, and accept where I am. Even though I know who I am, I deeply love, honor, and accept where I am. Even though I know who I am, I deeply love, honor, and accept where I am. Okay, so we're gonna go to the middle brow, and we're gonna tap through one round of just letting that be known. Who am I? Okay, go to the side of the eye. Who am I? 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 Under the arm. Who am I? Top of the head. Who am I? Midbrow. All this frustration of wanting to know who I am, all this frustration about who I am, all this anxiety when it comes to me standing within on who I am. So you're just repeating after me, but you can just say, who am I? All this frustration and anxiety when I think about who I am. Collarbone. All this frustration and anxiety when I start to reflect on who I am. Now, under the arm, all this frustration and anxiety when I think about who I am. Top of the head, all this frustration and anxiety when I think about who I am. Okay, now we're going to go back to the mid brow, and we're going to let this go. In the mid brow, we're going to start here, and you're going to repeat after me. Letting go of all the anxiety and frustration about who I am. Letting go of all that anxiety, all the worry, all the frustration about who I am. Under the eye. Letting go of all this frustration and anxiety about who I am. Under the nose. Letting this go, all the frustration and anxiety regarding who I am. Letting go of all the frustration and anxiety regarding who I am. Collarbone. Releasing, letting go of all this frustration and anxiety about who I am. And under the arm, letting go of all this frustration, all this anxiety, all this worry about who I am. Letting go. Just stay here for a moment. A feeling of like I'm an imposter when I look in the mirror and wonder, who am I? Top of the head. Letting go of this feeling of being an imposter when it comes to finding out who I am. Letting it go. Letting it all go. Letting it all go. Okay, now take a deep breath and let that out. Okay, so while I was tapping, what came up for me is I realized this was my purpose, was to come here and do this today. And also realizing that I'm not doing this for me, it's for someone else. I also started to think about this whole idea of who am I and why am I here. And I thought about what prompted me. I thought of Nolan Wells and Young Miami, all these different things when it comes to being young and growing into maturity when you're first stepping out into the world as a quote unquote adult. And what that looks like to take responsibility for ourselves when we really don't know everything about life, but we kind of think we know, but we really don't know all that there is. But we kind of know the world's a bad place, but we may think, I'm tough, I can handle it. And so, for that reason, we build up layers. One of the great things about tapping is it helps to decrease your cortisol by 37%. And cortisol is a hormone excreted by our neurotransmitters in the brain. And it is a stress hormone. But if we are overly stressed, although some stress is good, they call it, some stress is eustress, and I think the other is, I don't know the negative word for stress, but there's good stress, bad stress. If we are over stressed, then we have the propensity to tear the lining of the heart because you're constantly excreting too much of that hormone. And it also goes into our digestive systems. Also contributes, like the foods we're eating, also contributes to further damage in other areas and so forth. I mean, we could get probably go into, you know, what are some of the other ailments that come along as a result of that. That being said, my purpose was to just talk about why we kind of hear one thing, but we want to shift the world's image of us, or the world, what the world is saying, to fit what we want, how we see the world, and that is not exactly how life is. And it was interesting to me how India Ari stated she would not boycott the other artists that she had an issue with her song lyrics or what have you, or would not listen to with support. But other people still had a problem with her not wanting to boycott. And it's like we told this line where we're in, you cannot please everyone, is my point. And once you start to realize that, you realize, well, then who am I? Am I living up to this size standard or perspective, or am I living up to the standard or perspective that God gave? I refer to God as Allah. So am I living up to His standard of what my purpose is here? And what you find is, in this world, we're constantly being pulled and tugged in two different directions, especially as young people. And that goes for both genders. We're being pulled, and you have to find your balance. You have to find your middle ground and stay there and do not um, waver from off of that. And you have to find that within yourself and not allow people to rewrite your story, or to rewrite or become the voice. We have, as Black people, skin colored melanated folks, we have a lot of people who want to speak for us and da da da. And I understand that. However, it matters and it's relevant when we have to find and speak our own truth, because we have families who do not necessarily agree with us, who do not see the world the way we do. And we can fall into patterns that are limiting because of what we saw, or how we have been taught to see the world. So that being stated, let's close this out. I do feel like I have more to say, so I may try to do add one more area to that. I thought of Nolan Wells, and I thought about this beautiful young brother who is no longer with us, and it just kind of pained my heart, because many times we're searching for our identity through how people, whether, well, I'll say through how people view us again, but also um, on whether we're liked or not. Do I have the same value as a human being as my peers? So while it is natural to want to have, you know, um, friendships and to have favor there are realities in this world that we have to come to accept about life and time and where we are. And I really could not imagine being in this age of information and having so much to deal with as a young person. Um, as far as who do I listen to, where does my voice matter? Because it's just a lot. It's a lot out here, and it's crazy. And I know when I was 18, you want to fight back some kind of way. It's not that you mean to hurt anyone, but you want to be heard, and it's like your self-expression is being suppressed constantly, or you're in a situation where you're 8 hours a day in a system and you're learning nothing about your history, nothing about yourself other than you're a criminal thug, and you don't learn to love who you are. You do have that question of who am I, then does it matter? Does who I am matter? Because we're taught all day 24/7 how the oppressive elite class are, the victors. They're the ones of valor. They have value. They have power. They have, control over systems, and they're the more intelligent. And so we begin to internalize a sense of low self esteem, or low self esteem. You have to still distinguish yourself from even that, because that is also very important to have confidence, self esteem. Those things are something that are personal to you as a human being, as a soul, a being. And we're not really individuals. We are, who we are representatives also of our family, our community, of our friendships, all of those things, and of our beliefs. So let's close out. I want to affirm. We're going to go and tap on the opposite side, and we're going to just start again right here, just saying, even though I know I'm a unique being and a unique soul, I choose right here and now to love who I am. Even though, just repeat after me, I know I'm a unique soul, human being, I choose to love who I am. I choose to love who I am. And so we're going to tap on the opposite side, which is the right hand side, okay? I'm learning to love who I am. I'm a unique being. I'm a unique soul. I don't have to be perfect. I'm perfect enough. I'm a unique being full of light. I'm still learning. That's why I'm here. I'm still learning. That's why I'm here. When I stop learning, I stop growing. When I stop learning, I stop growing. I am, and say your name. I am Akua Kardiama. I am learning to love myself. I allow myself to learn to grow. I allow myself to embrace and love who I am. Collarbone, imperfections and all. Under the arm, mistakes is how I learn. Mistakes are how we learn. And I'm learning to love me. I'm learning with consistency. I'm learning to show up for myself. I'm learning that I'm here for a purpose. Not just myself, but for all those that I represent. And I'm learning to love and accept that. Again and again and again. Under the arm, say again and again and again. Top of the head. Again and again. Okay, let's close out with a deep breath. All right. So, as I said, you can always come back to this uh, tapping sequence. And again, you can change the words around to fit you, but I just wanted to share what I feel would be helpful in as far as facilitating a conversation. When we start to feel these anxieties and feel like, who am I? Do I even matter? Or I can't say what I need to say because so and so. That you don't have to feel that way. You can tap, excuse me, or you know, find other ways to ground yourself, meditate, journal, you know, go for a walk. All these things are very helpful in the process. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for taking time out to tap with me. And I plan to come back with more of these types of videos because I want to definitely build on where I am starting at and continue the dialogue. All right, and it gets better. That's one thing I will say. Things start one way, but it does tend to get better when we stick around. You just got to stick around long enough. All right, all right. Well, bye for now. Peace. Assalamu alaikum to everybody.